time for another crystal haul. It's going to seem like I have a lot of money to burn. I really don't. The piece of fluorite I showed in a recent video I bought in November. And the reason I've had some extra money at the moment is because I have really not been going out drinking much. I haven't been going out socialising much either, but particularly drinking, and my budget for the week does allow for, you know, a night out a week kind of thing. And because I just haven't been feeling like going out and drinking, and when I do go out I've been having like maybe one drink, because of that, and also just because apparently being single costs a lot less money, because I'm not going for dinner and lunch and tea and stuff half as much, or I mean I'm not going out for dinner at all, because that's not something me and my friends do, because you know a lot of us, we don't have a lot of money. So I've basically been gradually saving up, and I've had it in the back of my mind that, you know, when I had a bit of extra cash lying around, that I would splurge on some crystals. So the smoky quartz was kind of the beginning of that, and that was, you know, I bought that online, so that was slightly different. But this particular shopping spree I have been planning for a while. So I just went over to my local kind of metaphysical shop, and I mean they always have beautiful crystals. They always do. They had a particularly amazing haul, and I got the carnelian and the fluorite seemed to be from a particular shipment of theirs. But anyway, so I went in today and I was kind of thinking that I wanted to pick up some, maybe a blue crystal, preferably something polished. I also had calcite in the back of my head, but then when I spotted this blue calcite, at first I was like a little bit unsure, because blue calcite in particular, I suppose it's just because it's such a big piece. If I reach around and yeah, you can kind of see now the size of it. So it is quite large. When I saw it at first, I was a little bit unsure about it, just because, as I've said before, rough stones... Sorry, trying to let that calm down again. Sorry, the lighting is a bit funny because I'm sitting in the window. Rough stones are just not really my thing, generally speaking. So I looked at this and I thought, you know, that's really nice. It's a calcite and it's blue and it's kind of what I'm looking for, but I'm not sure about it. And I just kind of picked it up out of curiosity. And I know I've said, like, I don't believe, quote unquote, in crystal healing, or that crystals have like innate energies or anything like that. But as soon as I picked this up, it was like, wow, okay, this is coming home with me. It just, what can I say? It just gives off, or it evokes in me just this amazing kind of feeling of calm and clarity, and just this amazingly lovely feeling. I think it's something about the texture of calcite that is particularly kind of soothing, I suppose. As if you own a piece of calcite, if you've ever felt a piece of calcite, you probably know what I mean. That it just has this kind of strange consistency to it, and maybe that's what contributes to the feeling of it. Though I mean, they did have several other blue calcites, similar blue calcites, and this was the first one that I picked up, and I did kind of go and pick up the other ones and consider them, but this one was the one that I kind of came back to. And it was interesting, when I was going to buy it, the shop assistant, when she was wrapping them, she picked up the next piece that I'm going to show you, and then when she picked this up, I went to wrap it, she went, ooh, you know, just this sort of a very similar kind of reaction, but more intense, I suppose, than mine, because like I say, I don't usually pick up a crystal and go, ooh, you know, I don't feel anything, I don't get those, I don't sense the energy, do you know what I mean? If I do, it's a very, very subtle kind of way, and that's probably to do with the fact that my understanding of how they work on a placebo kind of level and stuff, you know, that I'm just not going to have such an intense response. But it was interesting that she had a similar reaction, and it wasn't just that she was kind of putting it on or anything, because she, you know, didn't respond like that to the next piece, which I'm going to show you. And there is just no way I'm going to be able to get this properly on camera, but look, it's a massive piece of labradorite. I've been looking for a piece of labradorite for a while. This was a stone that I knew what it looked like. I had seen it online, you know what I mean, and a long time ago, like maybe 2 years ago or more, I bought a couple of tumblestones online of labradorite, and when they arrived with a couple of other things that I had bought, I just didn't click with them. I mean, that's actually an understatement. I hated them. Like, I had this really visceral response to them of just like, ugh. They just didn't do anything for me. And they just kind of collected dust for a while in a bowl. and I really just never worked with them. I laid them out at one point for connecting with a sort of sea goddess, and you know, they just really weren't doing anything for me. And then recently I just had this, I took them out of the bowl again when I was setting up my altar, well, not really an altar, but my section of my altar for Odin. And I just had this feeling about labradorite, and I took it out and I just thought, yeah, you know, this is his stone. And suddenly I just found them really, really beautiful. And they're not brilliant, you know, tumblestones. It's really hard to find. As tumblestones, they're actually quite nice, the ones that I have. They do have quite a good gleam to them. One in particular has a really nice sheen to it. But then ever since then, I've just had this desire to work with a bigger piece of labradorite, and particularly to use it as a central point for an altar for Odin. And having picked this up, I mean, this is huge. This is now definitely bigger, much bigger than my fluorite. It is definitely, I think, yeah, it was more expensive than the fluorite as well. Like I say, you might be getting an idea, because I know there's a glare on it, but to get the light, the sheen on it, I have to kind of have it in the window, in the glare. So let's see if I can get there. That might give you a better idea. I find that if I hold it in my hand at certain angles, the sheen will show up at its best. It depends on what angle the light is coming from, obviously. So I wasn't necessarily planning on getting a piece this big. Sorry about the clutter in the background, by the way. I literally just got home and took these out, and I just had to shoot a video. I wasn't necessarily planning on getting a piece this big, but when I saw it, I just, yeah. And when I picked it up, I just kind of went, yeah, this is the one. This is coming home with me. And I had the exact right amount of money in my wallet for the labradorite and for the calcite, which was worked out pretty well. So although, you know, if this was more expensive and meant I had to not get the calcite, I probably would have gotten this. Oh, there, you're getting another piece of sheen down the side there. Actually, one of the things I love about it, although this is definitely the more brilliant side, I actually really love the back of it, because now I don't know if I'm going to get this on camera at all. It has these kind of blue bits through it. There's not as much sheen on the back, but when you tilt it, I think you can kind of get that there. When you tilt it in the right light, yeah, it's really not coming out very well here, but when you tilt it in the right light, you just get these kind of specks and veins of really brilliant midnight blue, and it just makes me think of the night sky. It's really, really gorgeous, much more subtle on the back. So yeah, now that I have such an extravagant piece of labradorite in my hands, I suddenly feel like I'm actually going to have to, I actually want to create a better altar for Odin, like a full altar, you know, a very small altar. I'm not going to have masses of space, and I certainly don't have the space to do this right now in the flat, but when I move out to my parents' house, I will have a little bit more. I'm a little bit hesitant to do this. What I'm planning on doing is actually creating altars side by side, on either side of my main altar for the Morrigan, whose altar has been feeling quite small and constricted for me recently, and then on the other side for Odin. I'm feeling a bit with Odin that he's not going to make himself known unless I go chasing after him, or unless I do the work, do you know what I mean? Like the Morrigan just was there. She was always there. As soon as I knew her name, I knew her. I feel like I knew her from down in Kerry. I knew her from the land in Ireland. She is native to my land. She's native to my place of birth, and she's just in my bones. So the Morrigan just was there. She was waiting. It wasn't even that she made herself known to me, but only in the way that I sort of became familiar with her name. And when I became familiar with her name, and found out which stories she was in, I was like, oh yeah, well I knew those stories, I knew that figure, and she always fascinated me. So the Morrigan did not take a lot of searching to find. She was waiting. Odin is a completely different story. He is, I'm having serious difficulty connecting with him. Now, I do sometimes work with Ganesha, and I don't feel with him like I need to do any more than I have been doing. And I do very little with him. I haven't made him really any offerings or anything. He just makes himself known sometimes, when I'm doing inner work, when I'm path working, some things like that. Sometimes he just pops up and he gives me a profound kind of message. And I also just really love his symbolism for general kind of personal development and evolution and stuff. He's just a very powerful figure. He has some very powerful symbolism. But he's almost like Gaia for me in that he's less anthropomorphic in a weird way. Well, I suppose he literally is because he's got an elephant head, but that's not really what I mean. What I mean is that he's more symbolic to me in the way that Gaia is than the Morrigan. The Morrigan has much more personhood about her or something, or she's just more. It's very hard to describe. I feel like Odin is not making himself known to me in the way that Ganesh has, or Ganesha. I vary on how I pronounce it, to be honest with you. He has just been around the sidelines. He's just been hinted at. And the only times he has made himself known, I've been just sort of like, what? Why have you appeared in that form? That's not Odin. That's a totally different form, which I'm not going to get into now, but it's just like, doesn't make any sense to me, and it feels like I'm just making it up in a much stronger way than I ever have experienced with any other deity, because to a large extent when I do path working, when I do kind of active imagination, I do accept that I am, creating the images that I see to some regard, and it's partly conscious, definitely. But yeah, with Odin, anytime that he's supposedly appeared, I have just been kind of blindsided and going, what? This is not what I was expecting. And I just feel like there's something there. There's something that I need to delve into. So I want to start, I want to reread his stories. I want to build an altar and come up with maybe a daily practice for him, something very simple, and see where it goes from there. So this was supposed to just be a little haul video. I ended up going on about Odin, but that was kind of inevitable because this stone is definitely going to be the centerpiece. I didn't do this with any other. Oh no, I did. Okay, with Ganesh, I did buy a little statue of him before I started working with him. To be fair, but that didn't cost much. And then with the Morrigan, I had the piece of obsidian, I suppose, and I'd had that since childhood, but I didn't necessarily go out and buy anything. And there is something slightly uncomfortable to me about the idea of like me going out and buying something in order to sort of buy my way into a relationship with a deity. But I still just felt strongly like a piece of labradorite was something that I wanted, something that would help me connect to Odin. I certainly could have done it without this piece, but yeah, it just was something that I wanted. Well, sure, I mean, I'm probably preaching to the choir a bit here, because this conversation happens so much in the pagan community about whether we need stuff and how much we don't need this stuff, but we like the stuff anyway. And this is a perfect example of like, I know I don't need the stuff. Like, I know I didn't need this rock to approach a relationship with Odin. So yeah, just to wrap up, I guess I will just say, apparently my practice is becoming very crystal heavy. And I'm not totally sure what to make of that, because I do work with all my crystals, but I feel a tiny bit like I don't work with them all enough to justify how many I've been buying recently. Like 6 months ago, or it all started with the piece of carnelian, and before that I really didn't really have that many. I bought a lot of tumble stones and they were just unsatisfying, and it happened every now and I mean it only happened every now and then that I would go out and buy some tumble stones, and then I just wouldn't really use them. And maybe it wasn't until I bought my piece of carnelian that I realised that what I actually wanted was to invest in a bigger, slightly more expensive piece. And they just took on this meaning for me. My piece of carnelian, well, my fluorite as well, but my carnelian in particular has this symbolic meaning. It shows up in all my path workings. It has a very, very masculine energy for me, and I think at the time when I bought it, masculine energy was what I needed. I needed to be connecting with my animus. I had actually become really disconnected from my masculine energy, and when I found it, and just, you know, it was the first time that I'd actually put down more than a couple of euro for any one rock, because I would have always felt a bit like, oh well, I don't believe in crystal healing, so why would I spend, you know, however much that piece of carnelian cost? It wasn't that expensive, maybe 12 euro. Why would I spend that on a rock that I don't think is going to actually do anything to me or for me? And I really just bought it because it was so beautiful, and when I picked it up, it just felt right. And that was maybe 6 to 9 months ago, and I don't know, 9 months ago at least. And ever since then, I just haven't looked back. I've just been amassing these bigger stones. Then it was that after that I got my rose quartz, after that I got my onyx egg, and then I got my fluorite, then I got my smoky quartz. Now I have my big lump of calcite. I also have a big lump of rose quartz, but I felt like that it only cost me about £4. So you know the way rose quartz is just so cheap, so that almost feels just like doesn't count because it was so cheap. And now I have, yeah, my blue calcite and my labradorite. Yeah, so essentially what I'm saying is, and I have a piece of amethyst as well, in a really rambly roundabout kind of way, is that crystals are becoming a big deal for me. And I think I'm only at the very beginning of figuring out what they can be for me, what they can symbolize, how I can use them, and things like that. It's interesting because I have such a naturalistic perspective on them, that I don't see them as objects that are literally like healing me or anything like that. But I do have this feeling of they're having a really, really potent placebo effect to them, and they're just incredibly beautiful. I think also partially what I am doing is that I'm creating a chakra healing set kind of unconsciously, and in fact it might be almost completed now. And like past me would have watched this video and been like, what are you at? What? Like, you don't believe in this stuff. And it's like, I don't believe in it in any more than I used to, or in any different way than I used to, but it's just these stones have helped me in some way. They've helped me put maybe a tangible physical symbol onto something that needs to change within. And like I say, it started with the carnelian. And the fluorite is interesting to me because it has, if you didn't see my last video on my crystal haul, it has a very strong both purple and green. It's kind of half and half. And what's interesting to me about the fluorite, and at the time that I got it, I feel like it's kind of it's connecting the heart chakra with the third eye chakra, and that's interesting to me because I feel like there has been a huge disconnect between my emotions and kind of my intuition. And that might sound strange, but that's the way that I'm seeing it right now, that there's some major disconnect, and I don't seem to be able to trust either my emotions or my intuition, or just something. I mean, obviously to some extent I think your intuition is based on your emotions, or your intuition is your emotions, but I suppose I'm talking about intuition in the sense of it being something a bit more conscious, a bit more air element rather than water element, a bit more kind of logical almost, just something that is more comes into your mind, and it's a thought rather than a feeling, if that makes sense. And I think that's something that I've been struggling with quite a lot. So anyway, that's enough on that, I think. I will probably continue to make these videos on my crystals. I don't have any plans to buy any more large pieces in the near future, and I think I'm definitely going to put an embargo on myself now. But honestly, I think there isn't even... I think I've almost, like I say, I've got a full set almost. And I just don't feel like I'm going to feel any kind of need or want to buy any large pieces of stones in the near future. So yeah, this was actually supposed to be like a 5-minute video, and it somehow turned into a chat. So I'll wrap it up there, and yeah, let me know your thoughts, and I will definitely share anything with you that I create, you know, like an altar for Odin or whatever. I think I'm probably going to feel completely happy to share that with you as well. So far I've felt no compunction about sharing my altars. So yeah, I'll keep you informed and let you know how these pieces settle in and all that, and we'll continue to update you on my feelings and thoughts about crystals. And I lied, I just wanted to show you, this is where it's going to be living for the moment. This is my Odin section of my altar. Actually, I haven't really shared this with you before because I felt unsure about sharing it, and I'm not feeling unsure anymore. So there you go. I've got a lantern in the background, which I feel is very relevant. Then I've got this little tree, which is kind of representative of the world tree, and obviously you know that he hung himself on. And yeah, here are the 3 pieces of labradorite that I had, and a piece of black tourmaline that I had kind of where I've now put the labradorite piece. And this is, I'm happy enough with this for the moment, but I feel like I am going to want this altar space to kind of grow and expand a bit in the near future.